For decades, it was a shadow war, but now it's erupted into open conflict. In this explainer, we're going to break down the coordinated strike that took out Iran's entire leadership, lit a fire across the region, and pushed the Middle East right to the brink of something terrifying.
Okay, picture this. It's 6 in the morning, just before dawn in Israel. On a military airfield, these incredibly advanced fighter jets, armed with long-range, precision missiles, they just tear into the sky. Their destination? It's over 1,000 kilometers away. And their target is the absolute heart of the Iranian regime.
And then, just 2 hours and 40 minutes later, they arrive. It's mid-morning in Tehran. Way down below them, there's this specific government compound near Haravi Square. And the intelligence is solid. A high-level meeting is happening right now with the most powerful people in the country. We're talking the supreme leader himself. This is the moment.
And the whole thing, it happened in a flash. It was this meticulously planned operation. Jets scramble, the location of Iran's top leaders is confirmed, and then boom, the missiles hit their target with just devastating precision. It was a lightning-fast sequence, all designed for maximum crushing impact.
Okay, so let's really dive into this. What exactly happened in those critical moments? Well, this was what's known as a decapitation strike. It was planned for months, and it was executed when, according to intelligence sources, the opportunity was, and I'm quoting here, simply too good to miss.
So you have to be asking, how did they know exactly where and when to strike? Well, reports indicate that the CIA had been tracking Supreme Leader Khamenei for months, basically mapping his movements, studying his patterns. This intelligence gave them the confidence that he, along with other top officials, would be at that compound. You know, the strike was actually planned for the cover of darkness, but this meeting, it was just too valuable of an opportunity to pass up, so they moved the whole operation into broad daylight.
So this operation, it actually had 2 different code names. In Israel, they called it Roaring Lion, and in the U.S., it was known as Epic Fury. But it was one joint mission with 2 very clear, very brutal objectives. First, eliminate the senior political and military leadership, and second, degrade Iran's ability to fight back by taking out its air defenses and missile arsenals.
Now, what's just staggering is the power vacuum this strike created. Instantly, in about half a minute, a reported 30 senior Iranian officials were killed. And we're not just talking about the supreme leader, who held absolute power. We're talking about the commanders of the conventional military and the incredibly powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, which is kind of the regime's ideological fist. To lose that entire layer of command in an instant, it was a staggering, almost unimaginable blow.
So, how on earth did we get here? Right. This attack wasn't just some bolt from the blue. No. It was the explosive finale to more than 4 decades of hostility, of sanctions, and proxy wars that started long before this strike.
To really get this moment, you have to look back at the key turning points. It all starts in 1979, with the revolution that declared the U.S. and Israel sworn enemies. Tensions just flared with the discovery of Iran's secret nuclear program in 2002. Then, we saw this brief diplomatic thaw with the 2015 nuclear deal, but that all fell apart when the U.S. pulled out in 2018. The final catalyst, though, really came in 2025. A severe economic crisis sparked mass protests, and the regime just crushed them with brutal force, killing thousands and arresting tens of thousands more.
But that decapitation strike, that was just the opening salvo. With its leadership totally shattered, Iran's new provisional government vowed revenge, and its response was swift. It was massive, and it ignited a firestorm that spread far beyond its own borders.
So let's talk about Iran's response. It was codenamed Operation True Promise 4, and you can see right here how this thing spirals into a much wider conflict. This was not some symbolic gesture. No, this was a full-scale counteroffensive aimed at striking back at its attackers and their allies across the entire region.
Just look at this number, over 200. In its first wave of retaliation, Iran launched more than 200 missiles at Israel alone. This was a completely unprecedented barrage, and it was meant to show 2 things: its capability and its absolute resolve to make them pay a very heavy price.
And here's the crucial part. This retaliation went way beyond Israel. Iran struck targets all across the Middle East. Drones hit Dubai's international airport. Missiles were fired at the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain and at an airbase in Saudi Arabia. U.S. forces in Iraq were attacked. Even countries like Jordan and Kuwait got hit.
The conflict had officially gone regional.
So with the Middle East basically on fire, the shockwaves were felt all over the world. And now everyone is grappling with the justification for that first strike, the devastating human cost, and the economic consequences that are just looming over all of us.
This brings us right to the heart of the debate. Was this strike actually justified? The Trump administration, for its part, framed it as a war of necessity, a preemptive move to take out an imminent threat to the U.S. and its allies. But critics, they call it a war of choice, an illegal, preventative attack on a country that, while definitely hostile, was also weakened internally and still years away from a nuclear weapon. They argue it violated both international and U.S. law.
And then, of course, there is the human cost. As you can see from these initial casualty reports, the overwhelming majority of deaths have been inside Iran. It's really critical to note, though, that these are early numbers, and they don't yet make a distinction between military and civilian deaths.
The conflict also sent the global economy into a complete tailspin. Think about it, with the potential closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which is a critical artery for global oil, prices have just skyrocketed. Experts are now warning of a severe global energy crisis if that waterway gets shut down.
So the result of all this is that Iran is now in chaos. Its entire established leadership is gone, a provisional government has sworn revenge, and retaliatory strikes are still happening. Nobody knows who's ultimately going to take control in Tehran or what their next move is going to be. The future is just dangerously unpredictable.
And that leaves us all with this one fundamental question. As this conflict continues to unfold, the line between taking preemptive action and committing an act of aggression is at the very heart of this debate. It's a question with no easy answers, but it's one the entire world now has to confront.